So today, lads, I'm going to change my percentage. Normally I've always said, oh, the WNBA season is going to happen. It's going to happen. Because the owners are, the owners and the players, they nobody benefits from the season not happening. It is clear now the players don't want the 2026 WNBA season to happen. It is very, very clear they don't want it to happen. And my assumption is that they want the owners to lock them out so that the court of public opinion tries to force the owners' hands. Because the WNBA offered players an extension, a 30-day extension. What does that mean? We all know it was never going to be solved by Friday. But a 30-day extension means that players can still use team facilities. Players can still work out with their teams. And you know who that does benefit? Players that aren't in on rivals. It's as simple as that. That benefits players who aren't in rivals. Because they can still, work out with their teams. The WNBA players refused an extension. An extension. All that means is that for 30 more days, while no basketball is going on with the WNBA, they could have had 30 extra days. They are trying to force the hand of the owners to lock them out immediately. And it does not benefit, the 30-day extension doesn't benefit the players in any way. In any way. Not refusing a 30-day extension does not benefit the players in any way at all. Because if you refuse a 30-day extension, it means that players can't use any of their team facilities. And they won't be able to use any of their team facilities at all. And continuing with that, there is realistically no reason why they would reject an extension. But it says here, given where things stand, they don't even want to negotiate any longer. An agreed upon extension from both sides would demonstrate a commitment to continuing negotiating and signal process toward a new deal. In 2019, a 2-month extension followed by a near 2-week add-on preceded the most recent CBA. When negotiations continue, even if Friday deadline passes, it would take an owner-initiated lockout or a player-driven strike for it to become a work stoppage. I would assume this is going to happen. Because if the CBA deadline passes, it means teams are no longer employees of their... Players are no longer employees of their teams. It means Caitlin Clark is no longer an employee of the Indiana Fever. Can't use Indiana Fever. I think they're trying to force the league into lockout. Player pay structure remains the number one thing. The players are so stalwart in their commitment to having a transformational CBA, and that's their job to get done. Their counsel said in the podcast, Drago said it's been difficult to find the same sense of urgency from the league. A league spokesperson responded to Drake's podcast appearance by urging the union to spend less time disseminating public misinformation and more time joining us in constructive engagement across the table. WNBA specifically offered to extend a deadline for a new CBA by 30 days, according to a source of knowledge of the negotiations. Yeah, these players don't want... the players don't want the 2026 season to happen. They don't. Because at the end of the day, you've got now the team, you've got now players who could have an extension, and the extension, by the way, the extension does not harm the players in any way. What does the extension do? It stops the league from realistically, it just stops a lockout. It just stops an imminent lockout. And I think the players want there to be a lockout because if there's a lockout, the court of public opinion swings to the players. I think these players care more about the court of public opinion. I think these players care more about gotchas online than long-term growth for the league. And I think that the current players could fuck up everything the league has grown to. Because there's a word, I've always said this, if this season stops, if this season doesn't happen, the WNBA may as well not, the WNBA may as well just end. Like, if the 2026 season doesn't happen, then WNBA may as well end. And look at it, like, I might be looking at this pessimistic. There might be a world where the WNBA ceasing to exist is the best things for women's basketball. That actually might be a world. There might be a world where moving away from the NBA might be the best thing for women's basketball. But for the revenue split that the players want, what has to happen is not only the WNBA owners, but the NBA owners and the outside investors have to agree with the revenue split. And right now, it looks like the revenue split is going to send every one of those investors into a guaranteed losses. And there's a possibility that whether it be the NBA or whether it be the other investors, they're willing to just say, you know what, like, with the way things are going right now, we are going to take losses for the remainder of time. Let's just cut our losses today. We're never going to make a profit. We're never going to make our money back. Let's just cut our losses today instead of getting more and more losses every single year to keep this league going. And that's the thing, is that the league can get shut down quicker than any other league because the backers of the league in a lot of situations don't have any real involvement in the league. I don't think the players want the CBA to get done. I don't think they are going to do anything. Like, I actually don't think the players are going to budge from exactly what they want. I think the players have a list of things that are never going to happen. My thing always is that I thought the players were shooting for stuff they knew they weren't going to get, and were going to try and negotiate down and like get way better than they would have got otherwise. But they're trying to use, for the first time, they have leverage. But they're trying to make sure that the first time they have a little bit of leverage, they get every single thing that they want at the one time, when the league has shown no consistent ability to be grown, which is not happening. It's not happening. And it's funny that the league, both sides are saying the other side isn't willing to compromise. And the WNBA have basically said they have as good as said, stop just chatting shit online and actually negotiate with us. That is essentially, like, in layman's terms, it's basically what they've said to the union. And it is now at the stage where it's like the league saying the Players Association hasn't offered a viable economic proposal and repeatedly refused to engage in any meaningful way in many of our proposal terms. I literally think the WNBA are saying this is what we want, and the WNBA or the players are saying this is what we want. The league are trying to find some way of making it work, and then they say this is what we want. They just keep repeating the same thing, and it genuinely seems like the WNBA players don't want to negotiate. It seems like they don't want to negotiate. It seems like there's a realistic question, is that they don't want the league. Like, is it that crazy statement to say they don't want the league to shut down? Like, is that a crazy thing to say? Because this is the one thing I'm like, this doesn't make any sense. To say no to an extension which doesn't harm anybody. If this was a 3-month-long extension to figure this out, if they just kept extending it and then they went into lockout in March because it didn't work out, then that's fine. That makes no difference. Like, everyone expected there to be an extension. But the fact that the league wants an extension and the players are saying no is not a good, like, for me, it's not a good look. Not that it's not a good look on the players, because a lot of people are like, for me anyway, it's kind of rare. It's rare in these type of situations. It's very rare that you people are like, I take the side of a company. Like, I would very rarely in these negotiations take the side of the company. But the problem is that I actually don't think the players want the league to happen. Like, I'm not actually fully convinced the people making the decisions for the players want the league to want the 2026 season to happen. And everything we're seeing over the last couple of weeks, I'm not fully convinced they want the season to happen. I genuinely am not fully convinced. And I could be wrong. This is just my opinion. And I genuinely, until we see a CBA is signed, I will refuse to believe the players want this season to happen. I'm convinced I'm convinced that they have a plan for Unrivaled. And by the way, I'm okay with with that. As long as Unrivaled goes 5v5. As long as Unrivaled goes 5v5, I'm okay with the WNBA season not happening. But if we've literally got gimmick ball as the alternative, which nobody cares about or nobody watches, no offense, no one gives much of a damn about these players, and a season cancelled because of gimmick ball? If the WNBA shuts down because of a league of gimmick ball? Madness. Madness.